Welcome back to another video in our HTML tutorial series. In today's video, we'll be looking at table, and in the process, we're going to create a grid of numbers, say from 1 to 9. In our editor, we open a file and save it as table_grid, and I've made the title grid of numbers. So let's give our page a heading. Using the h1 tag, we say create grid of numbers from 1 to 9 using table. Then, to create a table, we use the table tag. So, in the table tag, we can have rows and columns. To define a row, we use the tr, which stands for table row, to define a row. Now, to create a grid of numbers, we want to have 3 rows and 3 columns. So I'll go ahead and add. So we have 3 rows now. In each row, we want to have 3 columns. So to add content inside our row, we use the td. So that's table data. So td, and we impute the values. So we want to have on the first row and the first column, we want to have 1. Then td again. On the first row, on the second column, we want to have 2. td, we want to have 3 on the third row of the first row in the third column. We want to have 3 on the first row in the third column. Now, we do the same thing for the second row. We want to have td 4. We want to have td 5. And we want to have td 6. We move over to the third row and we have the same thing. td 7, td 8, and lastly td 9. So this has just created a very simple table for us. So let's save this and open in our browser. In our browser, as you can see here, let me zoom it in a little bit. As you can see here, we have our table, but it doesn't actually look like a table because there is no borders around it. So let's use an attribute that comes with table to add some borders to our table. So we'll do border, and let's give it border of 2 pixels. So we save this and open in the browser, refresh. As you can see, we now have borders. Now, I want to add some swelling to make space inside each cell so that we can actually see the numbers properly. So I'll go back here and I also add cell padding. And let's give the cell padding 15 pixels. We save, and in our browser, we refresh. Now we have a full-blown table now showing a grid of numbers from 1 to 9. There are some other attributes you can use in the table, attributes such as cell spacing. Let's make the cell spacing to 0 and see what it gives us in the browser. So you see, it took out those space between each cell, and we now have a proper looking table. So that's how to create a grid of numbers from 1 to 9 using the table.